Hey, what's going on, guys? XB72 here. Coming at you with a video that's been long requested from me by a lot of the new members to the flight simming community. And it's a good one because what I'm about to talk about is a product that I use on every flight. 99% of my flights I use this product. And what we're talking about is Vatsim, air traffic control for flight simming. Whether you're on X-Plane, Microsoft Flight Sim 2020, P3D or FSX, at some point you should come in contact with the Vatsim network. Vatsim network is a multiplayer platform, but a special multiplayer platform that allows you to use air traffic control. Just like in the real world, you have pilots that are flying and you have people that are doing air traffic control, which basically they direct the traffic on the ground, in the air, from your departure to your destination. And it just adds that extra element to flight simming where you get to interact with other players in the game that are not flying but actually coordinating traffic on the ground, i.e. they have what's called a FNO, Friday night operations, where they crowd one particular airspace somewhere in some country, and you have real world traffic like in terms of just the volume of traffic and so forth. So we're here to talk about Vatsim. You can see it right above my head there. So this is your Vatsim 101 tutorial. So let's start here. As I said before, Vatsim is a online network, a multiplayer platform, but this multiplayer platform is curated by people that make sure that all the traffic rules are adhered to while you're on the ground, while you're pushing back, while you're taxiing, while you're taking off, while you're flying, ascending and descending, and it's actually really good. And Vatsim network controllers, or just like real world air traffic controllers, are very passionate about what they do. So they're doing it the most professional way they can. So they expect you as the pilot to do it the most professional way that you can also on the ground when you're piloting your aircraft. And so when it comes to Vatsim, take it seriously and you'll enjoy yourself, I promise you. Anyway, let's start here. What do you need to get started with Vatsim? Well, first you need is a Vatsim account. Here we are right now at vatsim.net, vatsim.net. And if you don't have a Vatsim account, this is where you go to sign up. If you look at it, you have a pilot section, you have an ATC section, and a member section. Literally all you're interested in is in the pilot section. This is where it is. And the first tab up top, it says Getting Started. You're going to click on that right there. And it brings you to this page that says Join Vatsim. So you're going to sign up for a Vatsim account. Good thing about this, it is all volunteer and it is free. Once you click on the Join Vatsim, you log in, you put in your credentials, you set up your password, you get a user ID and a password, so now you are a Vatsim member. There are some rules and regulations that you have to adhere to, because if you're on the network and you're playing around, they will kick you off. And that's it. And they can permanently ban you from Vatsim because they use your IP address and so forth. So that's the first thing you need to know about Vatsim. So go ahead and sign up for Vatsim. Once you're done, step 2 comes around. And step 2 says, hey, now I'm in Vatsim. How do I get my plane to show up in the Vatsim network? How do I log on to this multiplayer platform? Well, it's real simple. There are, I want to say, at least 3 Vatsim clients, they call it. The client is what you use to connect to the multiplayer platform, right? 3 that I know of. There could be more. I could be corrected in chat after this video is made, but here we go. First one you want, depending on what you're flying. Let's start with Microsoft Flight Sim. The one I use currently and the one that's available for it, it's called vPilot. There it is. So if you go to vpilot.metcraft.com, vpilot.metcraft.com, you get to this website right here, and it's a simple website. What you're going to do is come over to the left here. It says download vPilot. So basically, you're going to hit the download button, and it tells you it's a 13 megabyte file. You're going to download it. It's going to walk you through the installation. You're going to be good to go, right? Once you download vPilot, and you fire up the simulator and you fire up vPilot, this is exactly what it looks like right here. This is the vPilot client you're looking at. I'll make it a little bit bigger for you guys. And here you have just a simple window with a bunch of stuff going on in a simple window here. Upper left hand corner, you have the connect button where you connect. Mode C is squawking your squawk code while you're in the air on the ground so the air traffic control can see you, but you really don't use it here. You actually physically use it in the airplane. There's an ident button that if you are flying in a certain airspace and you realize that air traffic control from Vatsim comes on and you want to say, hey, I'm in your airspace, hook me up, get me directed to where I need to be, and so forth and so on, you can hit the ident button, but that's also in the airplane. There's another tab here that you could say file a flight plan, which you could do. But before you do anything else, here's what you need to do. Once you get your Vatsim account set up, right? Once you're on Vatsim and you download the vPilot client, what you're going to need to is come to the vPilot client itself and go to the settings page. Very important. Yes, you guys are seeing my Vatsim ID. I don't care. As long as you guys don't see my password. You're also seeing my name. I don't care either. You're seeing my home airport. But this tab here is very important. It's your settings tab. It's going to say network, Vatsim. So now when you sign up for Vatsim, it gives you a Vatsim ID. Put in your password. Vatsim needs your full name. I've tried it without my full name. I've gotten supervisors come at me, well, not come at me, but talk to me during the flight, say, hey, you need to put in your full name or we're going to disconnect you from the network. I didn't do it and they disconnected me. So I came here and put my full name in. That's it. You need to fill that out. There's other settings here for notification and stuff. You could say, hey, flash the taskbar icon where it starts glowing at you down here when there's a private message come in. Flash taskbar icon for text radio message. That will come in down here. Flash taskbar for CCAL message. I'm not sure what CCAL is. I'm not even going to go there. Flash taskbar icon when disconnected from the network. This happens a lot in X-Plane where if you are below a certain amount of frames for a certain period of time, it will disconnect you and let you know. And then the last one says show incoming text messages in simulator. You can have it that your messages pop up when you're flying in front of you in a simulator. I have that off because I don't like it, but it will also flash down here too. So that's the notifications tab. The fonts, whatever font you like. Very important, the audio tab. See my mic's moving here? This is where you tell the client, which is vPilot, that, hey, I want to use this microphone and this speaker so I can talk to and hear air traffic control. You have to set these. You have a bunch of options here. I use my headset. This is my Logitech headset. I use it both for the microphone and also for the headset because I use my main speakers on my computer to hear the airplane sounds. I use my headset to hear air traffic control. Two different audios going on there. That way I can hear air traffic control very clearly without having to hear the airplane engines or wind noise and the ATC at the same time. So I separate my audio right here. This is where I separate it. Okay. So very important. A lot of guys don't set this up properly and they're trying to talk to ATC and air traffic control goes, hey, we can't hear you. You sound 1x5. You'll hear the term, somebody says, so-and-so traffic control, how do you read me? And it will say 5x5. 5x5 meaning that you sound 5 out of 5. 5 is the best, you sound 5 out of 5. Or 2x5, 3x5, 4x5. 1x5 is bad, 2x5 is bad, 3x5 is middle. This is where you want to come to set up your audio. Once you're done that, you hit apply. Another important tab. So the three important tabs so far is the network. Make sure you have all the credentials in. The audio tab here. And then the last one is push to talk, PTT. Literally, for you guys who are old enough, you ever heard about a walkie-talkie? Literally a walkie-talkie is you can hear somebody talking to you. When it's your turn to talk, you have to push that button on the walkie-talkie and talk. If both of you push that button at the same time, guess what? It cancels out each other. Same principle with air traffic control in the real world with a $180 million airplane. Both people can't talk at the same time over the radio frequency. So you have to wait your turn to talk to Vatsim. So set your push to talk key. I have a button on my alpha flight control, which is my honeycomb yoke. You guys have seen that. I also have to redo this whenever I switch to my joystick. It's a different button on my joystick, so you can clear the push to talk button. You could set a new push to talk button. So if you hit clear, it will clear it, says none. Set a different key, and sometimes this takes a while. Set a different key, and I push it, there it is. The button pops back up. Apply that, and you're good to go. Model matching, I don't worry about. I think it did it automatically for me. I'll leave it alone. Performance, I never looked at that before. It says do not display aircraft beyond 40 miles. You can't even see that far anyway. Maximum aircraft to display is 999. I don't mess with that. Updates, it will check for updates, for stable updates. It'll tell me there's an update and I'll update it. Miscellaneous, I don't even know what that is. I never even look at that. But most important one, network credentials, audio, and push to talk. And that's it. That's the client that you need if you're on Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's called vPilot, right? Here's a vPilot website we're on right now. But there's also another one if you're flying X-Plane. Let me close that out. If you're flying X-Plane, there's another client. There's two clients I know for X-Plane. And that is called XPilot. vPilot for Microsoft Flight Sim, XPilot for X-Plane. There's another one also. What is that called again for X-Plane? I used to use that. It's called Swift Client. But I don't use my Swift Client anymore because it's just a lot to set up. XPilot is pretty good now, and it's decent to set up. And all you got to do is go to the XPilot website. As a matter of fact, I'll put that in the description below. And once you get to the XPilot website, you download it, and guess what? It comes out like this. Let me go here and type in XPilot. Open it up, and it looks absolutely similar to vPilot. That's XPilot. And let's bring up vPilot here. XPilot and vPilot looks absolutely similar. So that's vPilot. Let me close that out. Let's bring up XPilot again. And I think it's the same people who make them. There it is. So here's my XPilot right there. And it's the same thing. Little bit different layout here in XPilot and vPilot, but it's still the same settings window. It's a bigger window than previous. It's got more stuff on this one window, which is the connection, the notification section, and some miscellaneous stuff, and also how to set up your key. So set toggle key. I'm going to press the button on my joystick, and that will set up the toggle key for me, so forth and so on. Also the push to talk, where I have my headset set and my speakers out for my air traffic control, and you can adjust the volumes on it and so forth and so forth and so on. vPilot and XPilot are pretty much the same thing. You understand? So these are the two ways you connect with it, with Microsoft Flight Simulator and X-Plane 11. I think for P3D you use the vPilot also. I don't have P3D. I only have Microsoft and X-Plane Flight Sim 2020. That's it. So those are the ways you connect to Vatsim, depending on what simulator you're running. So now that you got signed into the network, you have an account. Now that you have your client set up to connect to that network, so there's two things. You have the network itself, but not because you have a network membership to Vatsim means you just get on. You have to actually have a client that connects you to Vatsim. And the great thing about Vatsim is that no matter which simulator you're flying, as long as you're on the Vatsim network, you'll see all other planes from all other simulators. How sweet is that, right? Let me say that again. Once you're on Vatsim and you're connected to the network through one of these clients, you can see X-Plane traffic, Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 traffic, P3D and FSX traffic, all on your simulator, no matter what simulator you're using. You see all of them, which is absolutely brilliant, man. I just can't get over how good that stuff is. This stuff is free. Did I say that? This is all donationware. So it's good, man. All free stuff. Anyway, so now you got set up. You're on Vatsim. You're sitting on the runway. You're sitting on the tarmac, and you go, "Oh wow, what do I say?" The biggest question I get, by the way, is like, "How do you talk to air traffic control? How do you remember what to say? How do you know what to do?" Well, here's how you do that. You need to know literally what it is you want from air traffic control. So basically, they're there to serve you. You're not there to serve them, Remember, you're the pilot in command of your virtual airplane, okay? You're the captain in charge. So you want to get from point A to point B, and you need air traffic control to sort you out amongst all other traffic. You need to let them know that you're there, what your intentions are, and they're going to help you and put you in sequence with other airplanes that are flying. So like, okay, good, where do I start? Here's what I use. SimBrief. SimBrief.com. Another free tool for us simmers here. Go to SimBrief.com is what I use 100% of the time to set up all my flight plans. Literally, plain and simple, that's it. Sign up for SimBrief, get an account, because this software does more than just set up your flight plan. You can end up getting, I'll show you here shortly, but you can download your flight plan directly to your airplane, especially Microsoft, directly from SimBrief.com. So you have the waypoints already in. So anyway, go to SimBrief.com, and this middle one here is what I use. I never look at about or register. Well, I registered once. I did create an account one time, and I have my account, and I'm good to go. So create an account at SimBrief.com, and you have that ready to go right there. Once you're logged in, there's my name again. Yep, it comes up everywhere. I've never had to hit the support or help button. You go to the dispatch. So you're going to dispatch, like in real world, all these commercial airliners have a dispatch center. Dispatch is what gives them their flight plan, their fuel requirements, the passenger manifest, where they're going, and what to expect as far as weather is concerned. That's what dispatch does. So you're going to go to dispatch here, and it says a couple of things. It says dispatch system, my flight plan, and save flight plans, and a whole bunch of other stuff that you could do. But let's start with the first one, dispatch system. There we go. Now you hit with this page here, and you're like, ooh, okay, cool. But guess what? You see nice bright green. Create a new flight. You can view your last flight. You can load a saved flight. You can edit the last flight, but we're going to start from fresh. We're going to create a new flight, any one of these right here. So I hit create new flight. That takes me over to this nice blank canvas right here. And the only thing that you need to set up, you can go crazy and fill out everything else that you want, customize it, but I go here. I go American Airlines 2806, that's my flight number. Where am I going from? KFLL, Fort Lauderdale, to KJFK. No, not KFJJ. JFK. So Fort Lauderdale to John F. Kennedy International Airport. Right away, it gives you an alternate that's populated for you just in case you have to divert. But anyway, let's leave it alone. Second thing, so first thing you put in the flight number, then your departure and arrival destination, then your airframe. Airframe is what airplane you're using. I'm using an A320. There it is. I can put in pounds or I can put in kilos. Let's do it pounds here. All this other stuff is all automatic. They'll fill out for you and never touch them. Right away in SimBrief, what I love about it, it actually generates for you a flight plan. There it is. This flight plan includes your departure SID, standard instrument departure. It also includes your star arrival, and includes all the waypoints in between all of that stuff. Love it. And you actually have suggested routes that are right here. You can click and change them, whatever it suggests for you. I never even mess with that, man. I want to get you flying. But if you scroll down more, it will literally show you the flight plan you just put in there right here. From Fort Lauderdale International Airport, over the ocean, up to Wilmington, Delaware, North Carolina, Norfolk, Virginia, New Jersey, JFK. There is your flight plan, and also the dashed line is your diversion to Boston if you wanted to do that. So that's what SimBrief does. So it's there for you, good to go. Once you've done that, you're satisfied, you can go here. It says generate flight plan. You click that. Yes, it's going to generate the flight plan for you. And here comes the part that you're going to be using now for all your flights. Now, the reason why I'm going through all this step by step, because all this ties into one, in my opinion. I can tell you how to use Vatsim, but you're going to come back and say, hey, how do I generate my flight plan? How do I get onto Vatsim? How do I connect? This is all the questions I get. Once you're done, there it is. Your flight plan is generated. You can actually scroll a little bit down and it's here. Or what I like to do is actually just print the PDF, get the PDF only. What's good about this PDF is that I can now download this PDF directly into my Avatar if I use X-Plane 11. And these are all my flight plans in the Avatar. So when you see me bring up an Avatar in the airplane, this is where I do it from. I get the PDF downloaded from SimBrief, and then I go ahead and put this in the Avatar by downloading it to my desktop and whatever. There it is in the Avatar. It goes in Resources, Plugin, Avatar, Charts. That's how I get it in the Avatar. But anyway, here's our flight plan that we just generated. We said we are American Airlines 2806, October 6, 2020, going from Fort Lauderdale to JFK in an A320, A320, right? That's what we're doing. It's got a whole bunch more information that I never even used, but anyway, let's run through them anyway. Cost index, you guys asked me what that is, that you put in the FMC. It's a fuel to time to destination ratio that ops figures out and determines how much fuel they want to burn, or how fast they want to go, or whatever. Don't even get caught up in that. I usually put in what says cost index here, or I'll just put 50 in the thing. Even tells you what engine is on the aircraft, a CFM engine. Tells you what the maximum takeoff weight is for your airplane and what the total weight you're going to be flying today. Same thing with the zero fuel weight. It also tells you fuel flow in pounds per hour, because we're in pounds. You're going to burn 5,446 pounds an hour. Tells you what the average wind is on your way. It gives you a whole ton of information. I'm still figuring it out. Anyway, come down to plant fuel. The first thing it gives you after that stuff is the fuel. It says your trip fuel is 12,407 pounds. Flight time, 2 hours and 16 minutes. Contingency fuel, an extra 15 minutes. That's 1,300 pounds of fuel. Alternate to Boston, an extra 4,000 almost pounds of fuel. That's 30 minutes to Boston. And it gives you extras reserve. 2,300 pounds of fuel and an extra 30-minute reserve. So you got a bunch of fuel on the airplane. You got almost twice as much fuel as you need. But anyway, and it says the minimum takeoff fuel is that amount, and so forth and so on. So your block fuel from when you block out and you start the engines to when you land, the total amount with all of this stuff added up is 20,000 pounds of fuel. It's right there. So that's what you're going to be putting in your airplane. Scroll down a little bit further. Gives you the route or the routing. And you can break this down very simple. Fort Lauderdale, 10 left is your departure runway. Zappa 4 SID, all the waypoints in between, and then JFK arrival at 13 right. Now it's giving you these arrival and departure runway based on the wind conditions. Now you might find that when you get onto air traffic control, they're giving you something completely different. Don't argue with them. Don't tell them that SimBrief gave you this. This is what you get. Okay, you're gonna have to go to air traffic control because everybody else is doing the same thing. And these are all your waypoints in between, as I said before. That's what you put in. You could scroll down and you have a breakdown of the passenger count. 134 passengers, payload is that, zero fuel weight is that, the fuel amount we talked about, the total weight you're going to be taking off, and the maximum weight and all that stuff. So you have all that. Even you guys see me do this sometimes on my flight. For each waypoint in your plan, there is a coordinate, longitude and latitude coordinate you can match up, because sometimes I might ask you. It also gives you your estimated fuel on board, how much fuel you should have at that particular waypoint. You need to match that up too, especially when you're on a long haul flight. Make sure the airplane is burning properly. Okay, and it goes through, you're in Fort Lauderdale airspace, you're in Jacksonville airspace, you're going to be in DC airspace. These are all the waypoints you're going to go through. You're going to be in New York Kennedy airspace, New York airspace, so forth. And it goes on for days. This stuff here, wind information, don't even check it. I didn't bother. There's another section here, but the only thing you could do, what else you could use on this, I like to look at sometime, is the weather in my departure and arrival area. And if you scroll all the way down, page 11 on this, it shows you the weather right now. Now, this is what's called METAR. METAR is the accurate weather up to an hour old. And it shows you JFK weather. First, it shows you Fort Lauderdale weather. I can barely read this, but I know it says right here that winds are 100 out of 100 degrees at 15 knots, 10-mile visibility, scattered 2,500, scattered 12,000, broken 25,000. The temperature is 29, dew point 26, the altimeter to 90904. So if you don't have ATC on and you don't have any ATIS report, you can get all that stuff from here. Also shows you what the current condition is here in JFK, but remember JFK is 2.5 hours away, so this might change, but based on what the current condition is how it gives you your runway and so forth. Anyway, that's as much as I'm going to go into when it comes to setting up your flight plan, setting up Vatsim, setting up your pilot client, and so forth. Now we get onto the business of talking to air traffic control, which is the part that you guys want to get to. Wow, it took me 25 minutes to get there, but hey, I don't know how to simplify this for you guys because these are questions that people ask all the time. I'll probably put a link in the video saying, hey, 25-minute mark, Vatsim, how you talk. Do you want to know how I talk to Vatsim? Right here. Pen and paper. I kid you not. Pen and paper, or if you have a iPad you can write on, or if you have a iPhone or something, you're going to want to write this stuff down, especially when you just get started. Now here's an acronym for you that they use in real world to get started. It's called CRAFT. C-R-A-F-T. So you might want to write down big C, big R, big A, big F, big T, one top of each other, just like they have it right here, CRAFT. This is on Wikipedia, I found it. Basically, it's a quick way to remember what you're going to write down and what you're going to look for when you just talk to air traffic control. So you're on the ground, there's tower on or there's ground on, or even better, you have departure clearance on. Sometimes in the big events, they have clearance. So here's what you can get in Vatsim. You can get clearance. All they do is give you your clearance to say, okay, I got clearance. Here's my squawk code. I'm good to go. You can then have ground control. You could have ramp control. Then you have ground control. Then you have the tower. Then you have the departure. Then you have center. And then it works its way down at the other end when you get there too. Anyway, CRAF. C in CRAF stands for clearance limit. That's the clearance to the endpoint, usually the destination we're going to. So where you want to get to. We said we're going to Fort Lauderdale to JFK. So you want to get a clearance to JFK. So you say, Air Traffic Control, American Airlines 2806, we are requesting IFR clearance to John F. Kennedy International Airport. IFR, what does that mean? Instrument flight rules. If you're flying a big jet, you're flying IFR. If you're flying a small little Cessna, you're more than likely flying VFR, which is visual, which is you looking out the window and knowing the landmarks and going by that. You're not going to fly VFR to JFK. It's going to take you about 15 hours. All right. You're going to fly IFR because you're going over 400 knots, 400 miles an hour, or whatever. So first thing is a C in CRAFT, which is clearance. We are looking for clearance to John F. Kennedy International Airport. Second, you're going to go with route, R-O-U-T-E. The route that is filed is as follows as part of the clearance. Okay. The third is A in CRAFT, what altitude to expect for your flight initially and at the end. The F is the frequency, which is going to be the departure frequency. And the T is the transponder code that every aircraft gets when it's flying IFR. So they can distinguish you on the radar screen from all the other airplanes. So you're just going to be a little blip with a transponder code, and they know that you're American 2806. So CRAFT, your clearance limit, meaning where you're going to be cleared to, the route you file for if it's still valid, the altitude that you're going to expect on that, and the frequency of the departure controller once you leave the tower controller, and the transponder code. So that's CRAFT. Let me separate this here real quick because we're going to keep this side by side. Come on, you make it small. There you go. CRAFT. Put you over here to the right. Let's scroll you up. So let's run through the first time you talk to ATC, you get in your 787 or your A320 or your 737 you want to fly. You want to go JFK to Fort Lauderdale. You sit there, you're nervous. Grab your pen and paper because you're going to be writing. Also write down CRAFT, one on top of the other, because you're going to be filling in information. And it's as simple. You just say, well, whoever is online, whether it's clearance delivery or ground or tower, you say, clearance delivery, this is American 2806, requesting IFR clearance, that's instrument flight rules, to John F. Kennedy International Airport. As soon as you say that, you prepare yourself to start writing because you're going to get some information. And he's going to say, American 2806 cleared to John F. Kennedy International Airport. He's going to read back to you what you're asking. Okay? Clear to JFK International Airport. And then he's going to say, via, we file for the Zappa 4 departure and the Zappa transition. So he's going to say, clear to JFK via the Zappa 4 departure, Zappa transition, then as filed. So now, here's what I do. I do it shorthand, right? You could easily say, hey, let me write down all this stuff back. Zappa 4, Zappa, then as filed. Now, I'm looking at it here, my flight plan, which I'm looking at when I'm talking to them. I always do this, even after flying online for 2 years or more. I still look at the flight plan. So it says Zappa 4, Zappa. So I know that already is there, so I can repeat that. But what I write down is as filed, meaning that he's going to give me exactly what I already filed because we filed our flight plan. Almost forgot to show you how to file your flight plan. You do have to file your flight plan, and it's very simple. It's through SimBrief, by the way. Let's come here real quick before I forget. Once you do all this stuff, if you scroll down to the bottom of SimBrief, right down here, it says pre-file on network. And literally, you can file on Vatsim, IVO, Pilot Edge, or POSCON. I use Vatsim and I use Pilot Edge. Hit pre-file, pops up another window. It has your sign-in code or everything for Vatsim. And literally everything that SimBrief just generated gets transferred over to Vatsim here in this window right here with your altitude and all this other stuff, with your flight plan that you file. And all you have to do is just file flight plan right here. I'm not going to hit it. Bottom left, there's a green thing right here. File a flight plan. That's it. That's why SimBrief is so good. So anyway, there we go. You file a flight plan. So you already have up where you're going anyway. So you don't need to write down everything word for word. Develop some kind of shorthand that you can remember. So what I do is if you said, hey, American 2806 cleared the Zappa 4 departure, Zappa's transition as filed. I just write down AF for as filed, or I can write as filed. So that's the first piece of information he's going to give you. That's part of your C and R in craft, giving you a clearance limit to JFK and what route you're going to be taking to JFK as far as leaving that airport and continuing on. Zappa 4 transition, Zappa as filed. Write that down. Then he's going to give you your altitude. He's going to say American 2806 cleared Zappa 4 departure via Zappa, then as filed. Maintain 5,000 feet. So he's telling you, hey, once you take off, we need you to stop at 5,000 feet. Do not keep climbing higher above that. Reason why 5,000 feet? Because when you go into your charts and look at the Zappa 4 departure, that's the clearance limit that you're going to get based on what the chart says, more than likely. Okay? Or sometimes you might say, clear to JFK International Airport, Zappa 4 departure, climb via the SID. He's saying, climb via the standard instrument departure. You need to look at your charts on that standard instrument departure and look at exactly what it tells you your climbing should be. It will tell you your climb altitude is 10,000, 12,000, 19,000, or 5,000. So sometimes they'll give you the altitude. Sometimes they say climb via SID, meaning that you cannot pass where your charts tell you on your standard instrument departure, which is the Zappa 4 departure, right? So they'll give you a bunch of different information, but listen and write it down. So it says Zappa 4 departure, Zappa transition, and as file, climb via the SID. Okay? So you're climbing out of the airport exactly what it says to do on the charts, nothing more, nothing less. Then it says expect flight level 370, 10 minutes after departure, meaning that here's your altitude you need to stop, but expect within 10 minutes of you getting there, you're going to get clearance to go up to your final cruise altitude, right? So it's going to say Zappa 4 departure, Zappa transition, as file, climb via the SID, maintain 5,000, expect flight level 370, 10 minutes after departure. Write down as much as that as possible that you can write in shorthand so you can remember to read it back. Okay? Then he's going to go departure frequency as far as part of the F in craft. Departure frequency is 119.7, whatever it is. It's usually on the charts, but with Vatsim, they'll tell you what it is. And then the last piece of information, it says squawk 2355. That's going to be your squawk code, meaning that that's what you need to put in the transponder of the airplane so they can recognize you different from every other airplane. That's all they give you. That's how you talk to air traffic control initially on your initial contact. It is the hardest part of your initial contact, believe it or not, because everything else from here kind of gets smooth. But the departure clearance is what mess people up all the time. And it has to do with you listening carefully, know exactly what it is they're going to give you, and be prepared to write that. So if you get this little craft thing here, you can Google this, just do craft, aircraft, whatever. I Googled craft, aircraft acronym, and it comes up with it. So you're going to expect your clearance to wherever you're going. The route they're going to tell you that you filed is okay. The altitude that you need to maintain when you take off. The frequency that you're going to contact on departure, which is departure frequency, and your transponder code. So once he tells me that, I have everything written down. All I can do now is look at my screen that I have my charts on and read back to him and go, once he says American Airlines cleared it to JFK International Airport, Zappa 4, Zappa departure, then as file, climb Vada said maintain 5,000, expect flight level 310, 10 minutes after departure. Departure frequency is 123.5, squawk 5678. All I do now is read that back to him and say, clear to JFK, Zappa 4 departure, Zappa transition, as file, climb via the SID, maintain 5,000, expect flight level 370, 10 minutes after departure. Departure frequency is 123.5, squawk 1234. That's it. I read back everything he told me. I didn't write exactly everything he told me, but I already have the charts in front of me that I'm looking at that has the departure name, which I don't need to write again. But if you feel like writing it, write it. You have the transition. What you're going to need to write, though, I find for myself, is the altitude initially, because I'm going to forget that. You're going to also write the final altitude, because you're going to forget that. Then you write the departure frequency, because you're going to forget that. And then you write the transponder code. So the numbers is what I write down more than anything else, because that's what I can remember. That's it. You get your clearance. You're good to go. Now you scurry off to your FMC or MCDU and you put in all the information they gave you. Once you're ready now, depending on where you are, in Europe, I know they will require you to ask for a pushback. Now, pushback is, hey, I need to push back from the gate and start my taxi. Now, you should already have your charts up for the airport layout. And the reason why you want to have your charts up for the airport layout is because it will tell you if you need to push back left or right or whatever. Also, they will tell you, hey, push back facing east or push back facing west. If you look on my screen right now, I use Navigraph for the charts because it's indispensable. I go to the Navigraph, I go to taxi instructions, I look at the, where is it? Airport info right here. So now if I'm at Terminal 2 and I know that I'm going to be taking off 28 right, I know, okay, I need to push back and face that direction, face east. They will tell you sometime push back facing east, push back facing west or south or north or whatever, but you know which way you want to push back. In Vatsim in the United States, you push back on your own. They tell you to call for a taxi. So let's say now you push back, start up your engines, you're ready to go. Pretty simple. Tower, American Airlines 2806, ready for a taxi. Make sure you have your chart up and available when you call for taxi, because he's going to read off a bunch of taxi instructions to you, and if you don't know where you are, you're going to get lost. But let's just say that you didn't know where you are yet, but he's going to say, all right, American 2806, taxi via Tango, Tango 4, Bravo, Bravo 12, hold short runway 28 right. You're like, whoa, 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 slow down, slow down. What? Okay, write it down. Taxi via Tango, Tango 4, Bravo, Bravo 12. Just write that down. When you look at you can even read it back to him, because I do it sometimes. Sometimes you'll give me taxi instructions. I don't know exactly what path to the airport I should take, but I write it down so I can read it back. And then once I read it back, I say American Airlines Tango 4 Bravo 12 runway hold short 28 right. I know it now as far as what he told me because I wrote it down. However, I can go to my chart and go, okay, here's Tango 4, here's Bravo, and here's Bravo 12. Ah, okay. So he wants me to drive here, make a right on Bravo, go all the way down and make a left on Bravo 12 and hold short. He's not going to tell you turn right, turn left. That's called progressive taxi, and you have to request that. And they don't want to do that because you're busy with 10 other people. He's just going to give you the taxiways for you to take. You have to determine when you make the right and when you make the left. And looking at this particular one, it's fairly simple. If you're here, goes Tango to Tango 4, right on Bravo, left on Bravo 12, hold short 28 right. So write it down. They do it in the real world. In the real world, unfamiliar airport, they are going to write down all the taxiways that they need so they can read it back to them and then figure out on their charts where it is. So always, always, always have your charts up. That's it. Always have your charts up. Okay? And that's it. Now, you're going to get flustered. You're going to get nervous. You're going to not hear what they say. Do not be afraid to say, Tower, could you repeat the taxi instructions? Or if you read back the instructions wrong, they're going to repeat it for you one more time. Write it down with the taxi instructions and figure out exactly how you get there. Because if he says Foxtrot, Lima, Echo, Charlie 3, Bravo 2, you're like, okay, where the hell is that? Oh, Foxtrot, Lima, Echo, Charlie 3, Bravo. You know, it's left, right, left, right. You could figure it out by looking at the map, but you're going to need the charts. That's why I like Navigraph, because it gives you the charts. And if you're going to be flying online, I tell everybody Navigraph is 100% worth it. If you can get charts any other where, that's good also. But that's how you do it. You do the taxi clearance. And then when you get to the taxiway now, the next step is you're holding short. If you have a ground controller on, at some point between taxiing from the terminal to the runway, he's going to say, American 2806, contact tower at 122 point whatever. So you switch over to tower, you listen online, and if tower is busy, you just keep listening and keep taxiing to where he tells you to. Tower will get to you. He will. Especially if you're in a line of traffic, he will get to you. Next thing tower says, hey, American 2806, he can give you two instructions when you get to the whole short line. You can go, American 2806, line up and wait behind the departing traffic. So you're going to line up, you can wait. That's it. That's when you turn on all your lights, your strobes, your taxi light, your takeoff light, all that stuff. You take out runway, turn off, so forth. Or you could say, American 2806, RNAV. What was the RNAV we said? This is very important. He can go, American 2806, RNAV Zappa, runway 28 right, clear for takeoff. You're like, RNAV Zappa? That's what you filed. You filed a Zappa for departure, and it's going to take you out to Zappa, or whatever waypoint that's on your departure charts. So you're going to go RNAV so-and-so, clear for takeoff. So now you make sure that you actually are correct and you have the correct thing. And you read back. American 2806, clear, RNAV Zappa, clear for takeoff. That's it. Actually, you should include a runway in there too. You know, if he says American 2806, line up and wait, 28 right, you read back, line up and wait, 28 right. You're confirming with him that you are on 28 right and you both have this right runway. Or it says RNAV Zappa, 28 right, clear for takeoff. RNAV Zappa, clear right, takeoff. The only thing you don't read back if he give you the wind instructions. As a courtesy, they tell you what the winds are. You don't have to read back the winds. Just read back the runway and wherever he's telling you to go. Sometimes they might give you a heading on a departure. He might say American 2806, climb heading 250, clear for takeoff. Means that you're going to go runway heading first. Once you take off and get to maybe about 400 feet, you turn to the heading 250 that he gave you. Don't ask why. That's where he wants you to go because he's making sure you don't conflict with other traffic in the airspace. And that's it. Once you take off, you are on your way. You toga, You get the throttle up, you take off, you either fly the RNAV departure or you fly the heading departure. Sometimes this departure have a vector departure. There is no waypoints on this departure. You're going to fly the heading that they tell you, and you're going to keep that heading on. They tell you to turn and so forth, so on. So once you take off, he's going to say, American 2806, contact departure. Now, do you remember when he gave you the departure frequency 30 minutes ago? That's where the departure frequency is going to come in hand. You could ask again if you forgot it, you didn't write it down. But what I normally do is I always queue up that departure frequency in the standby radio so that when he says contact departure, I say contact departure. I hit that button, transfers it over, and I'm over to departure. Or some of them might give you the departure frequency. American 2806, contact departure 128.7. And I read back, contact departure 128.7. So all these read back to the air traffic controller is you acknowledging that you heard what he said and you're repeating it back to him so he knows that you heard him properly and you got the proper information. And then once you take off, he says contact departure, you go over to departure, you flip over, you listen for a few seconds to make sure nobody else is talking because you don't want to step on anybody. And if you don't hear anybody talking, you say departure, this is American Airlines 2806. You look at your altitude and you go climbing 2,500 for 5,000 because 5,000 was the top altitude they gave you, or whatever the SID says. If the SID says 190, 2,500 for 190. The departure will say American 2806 radar contact climbing out of 2,500, climb and maintain 12,000 or whatever. So you go climb and maintain 12,000, you put 12,000 in the altitude box. Or it might say American 2806, turn left heading 50 degrees. You don't ask why, just do it. Left heading 50 degrees. Or it might give you two instructions in once. Turn left 200, climb and maintain 10,000. Turn left 200, climb and maintain 10,000. Now, can you write and fly? It's difficult, especially if you don't have the autopilot on. So this is kind of a skill that you're going to acquire over time, is learning to listen to the piece of information that he's going to give you. And over time, you'll know what different air traffic control, what directions you're going to give you. But you learn how to listen and read back what he says. So I block out whenever he says, whatever. I listen for the two numbers. 5,000 feet, heading 220. That's all I need. Because he might say, turn left to avoid traffic, 220, climb and maintain 10,000. Oh, crap. What did he just say? Oh, turn left 220, 10,000. That's it. That's all I need. Don't need to repeat anything else, and so forth. And so, that's your progression from the gate to the ground, to the taxiway, to the runway, to takeoff. And then once you get from tower to departure frequency, and then departure hands you off to center, and he gives you your final cruise altitude, you're basically good to go. That's autopilot city. Turn on your autopilot, let the airplane do the thing for you. And then you're going to repeat that as you go through different air traffic control airspace. You listen up for your time when they call you. And once you get there, then you're going to do the same for your descent. You're going to go back from center down to approach, down to tower, down to ground, and so forth and so on. Now, I was intending to make this video 10 minutes long. It looks like it's going to be about 50 minutes, but anyway. It's some information for you guys on Vatsim. It's like a Vatsim 101, including with the setup of the Vatsim client, with the Vatsim account, with filing your flight plan, and the things to look out for. But remember, if anything, CRAFT, C-R-A-F-T, write that down. CRAFT, as I said, simply stand for where you're going, the route you're going to take, the altitude that they're going to give you, the frequency for the departure, and your transponder code, CRAFT. That's it. Remember that for Vatsim. And then this takes practice, guys. You're not going to pick this up on the first flight. You are going to make mistakes. You are going to get yelled at, kind of. I have been yelled at. I have made tons of mistakes, and I also make mistakes to this day. But don't be afraid if they say something to you don't understand. You ask them, center control, can you repeat the altitude again, please? Or can you repeat the frequency again? And so forth and so on. And please, for God's sake, don't say with you. Now you can say with you, you're fine, but no, you shouldn't say with you. That nobody says it's kind of a pet peeve. But anyway, guys, I hope this helped. I'm not going to go on any longer. This has been 50 minutes talking here. Hopefully this will help you a little bit more with Vatsim and how to get on and how to file your flight plan and what to say just to at least get off the ground. The rest of it will come with practice and time. I appreciate you guys' patience on this. I appreciate your attention on this. Hope you've learned something from it. Anybody in chat, drop in the comment section below something else that I might have missed out or other tips and tricks that people can use so everybody here in the community can learn how to get on Vatsim and talk, because it's a wonderful network staffed by wonderful people. So in other words, XB's out. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out and joining this one. Hope this helps. See you later. Bye-bye.